Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. This week I'm stuck in the studio, but the show travels to the beautiful land of Portugal to drive one of the most beloved sports coupes in the world. You guessed it right, we're talking about the BMW M3. But when Jamshid reached there, he did receive some bad news. Oh dear. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to announce the sad and untimely demise of one of the most iconic sports car, the BMW M3 Coupe. After 4 generations of enthralling us, engaging us and entertaining us, the M3 Coupe is no more.
Because the M3 Coupe has been replaced by this, the 4-door M3 sedan. Oh, and remember when I said that the M3 Coupe is dead? Well, I lied, because the M3 Coupe lives on as a rechristened M4 Coupe. But if it's the same car, why this change in name, you ask? Well, in a move that annoys both us and M3 fans within and outside BMW, the company has decided to bestow all its coupes and cabriolets with even numbers. Blasphemy, I say. An M3 is an M3. Apart from the addition of the 2 doors to the sedan, the 2014 M3 and M4 haven't seen a huge change. In fact, from the side profile, it will take a very keen eye to differentiate between the M4 and the E92 M3. The one thing I absolutely love about the new M3 and M4 is the bulge on the hood to incorporate the new top-mounted intercooler. It adds a bit of muscle to an otherwise lean and athletic body. One thing the aerodynamicists wanted to ensure was that both the coupe and the sedan had identical aerodynamic properties, but this posed what was probably the biggest challenge for the design team. Thanks to the sloping roofline of the M4 Coupe, it required a big spoiler at the back, which the design team simply refuted. And this carbon fiber reinforced boot lid with an incorporated dovetail spoiler was a prime example of how the design and engineering departments can work within a company in perfect harmony.
One of the biggest engineering mandates for the design of the new M3 was to make it as light as possible, and one way of doing that is to use a lot of carbon fiber. So now on the new M3, the roof panel, even the boot lid design is made of carbon fiber reinforced material. Even the drive shaft itself is made of carbon fiber. Now this just doesn't save weight, what it also does is it adds a lot of rigidity and stiffness to the chassis, which translates into good driving feel. And that's the other thing that BMW have done really well. Now let me bring you all to the engine bay. Here you can see some more use of carbon fiber. This carbon fiber strut brace that links the engine to the subframe. It gives a lot of rigidity to the engine bay area. What BMW have also done is they've bolted the subframe directly to the unibody as well, so that makes the chassis a whole lot more stiffer, and this should translate into good driving feel. Speaking of which, these cars are meant to be driven on the road, so let's head out and see how they perform on the roads. Now the big talking point about the new M3 and the M4 is the demise of the naturally aspirated V8 engine. What you get now is a, wait for it, a turbocharged straight 6. So no longer do you have that wailing banshee of an engine that revs past 9,000 RPM, and I know that immediately this will divide a lot of you M3 fans. This engine revs far lesser. It's also, well, lost 2 cylinders, and no longer do you have that beautiful induction roar and that high-revving noise that really made the M3 quite special. But what it loses out on, it more than makes up for. Let's talk about on-paper facts. It's got more horsepower, definitely much more torque that's available now, all the way from 1850 RPM to 4000 RPM, so ideally it should be easier to drive. It's got few emissions, higher fuel efficiency, so I think it's a strong case for more with less. But I know most of you will argue that it's not just about the on-paper facts, it's more about the driving feel, and I completely agree with you. let me say this, think Formula 1. Now this progression from the naturally aspirated V8 engines to the turbocharged 6-cylinder engines was that the drivers had to modify their driving styles, and you saw that even the likes of 4-time world champions found themselves struggling. So likewise in the M3 and the M4, it can be challenging when you want it to be. You'll find yourself upshifting far earlier and of course using the mid-range more than the top end.
The M55 engine that powers the M3 and the M4 has about as much in common with the 3 Series straight 6 as our new Prime Minister-elect to his rivals. It's significantly lighter thanks to massive weight-saving measures like the all-magnesium oil sump and the small-sized turbos. Other modifications were made to ensure that the M3 and M4 get as close as possible to the high-revving nature of the erstwhile V8, like the forged crankshaft, a closed-deck crankcase, modified pistons, and arc-sprayed cylinder liners. The cooling system too has been designed specifically to endure track-like temperatures and conditions. But the pièce de résistance of this straight 6 are the 2 turbos.
In fact, I think this is one of the best turbocharged engines in the world right now. And that's predominantly because of the behavior of the turbos. Now, unlike other turbocharged engines which use a big turbocharger with a variable geometry, this one uses 2 small turbochargers with a fixed geometry that force induction into 3 cylinders each. The torque is available from as low as 1850 RPM, but what the engine smartly also does is that it injects a little bit of fuel inside the cylinders when you lift off the gas pedal, so that the combustion process continues and the turbochargers keep rotating at 120,000 RPM. So the moment you get on the gas, you get instantaneous power.
A very integral part of the driving feel is the symphony orchestrated by the air intakes, the explosions inside the cylinders, the turbos in this case, the exhaust mufflers, and at times, the lack of them. M3 music lovers can wipe the concerns off their face as the new M3 and M4 continue to be maestros, different yet melodious. Compensating for the lack of the 9,000 RPM firepower are the newly added butterfly valves, which in the Sport Plus mode or upon frantic acceleration allow the exhaust gases to bypass the muffler, creating a beautiful metallic exhaust note. BMW insists that while the sound is modulated inside the cabin through insulation layers, it most certainly isn't synthesized by the audio system, and we are glad for that.
So despite this unwanted change in nomenclature, the least BMW could have done was to ensure that the M3 and the M4 drove almost identical, which I think they've done. So basically the suspension settings, the subframes and the unibody are all identical on the 2 cars. Now you might think that with the added weight of the rear doors on the M3 and the low roofline and hence the lower center of gravity on the M4 would, well, change things, but they don't, at least not perceivably. Sorry, what's that? Oh, you don't want to be on the motorway. I think it's talking to me. Oh, you'd rather be on a racetrack because that's where you think you'll be in your best element. Okay, well, I think we'll just have to find ourselves a racetrack then.
And find a racetrack we did, a challenging Portimao track no less. An excellent clockwise confluence of dramatic elevation changes, cambered corners, and blind crests. This ought to be fun.
So let's give this engine the breathing space that it deserves now. Unlike most turbocharger engines, this one revs all the way up to 7,800 RPM. But thanks to the turbos, most of the punch lies in the mid-range, so you won't find yourself reaching for the screaming red line before the upshifts like you did with the naturally aspirated V8. Instead, it's become a whole lot easier. You often find yourself driving a gear higher. To keep the car stable, you need to upshift before you would otherwise in a naturally aspirated engine.
The other thing that has drastically changed is the handling of the M3 and M4, and that could be good news or bad depending on the way you perceive it. Much like everything else, BMW has dumbed it down a bit and made it more accessible even to complete amateurs. But if you want to go out and have a bit of fun, and you prod it just a little bit, it does let you have your share of fun. A lot of fun. The M3 and M4 owe most of their dynamic prowess to an incredible electronically controlled limited slip differential that keeps you in control at all times. You can leave it in the MDM mode and the ECU is smart enough to give you just enough leeway to have fun but keep you out of trouble. You don't even have to switch off the traction control off completely to pull massive slides. So between this brilliant new engine and the electronically controlled dynamics, the new M3 and M4 are exactly what you want them to be. And for that, we've got Herz, Wimbeck, Steger, Konza, Eder, Ernst and Smisskal to thank.
Car makers are often victims of their own success. You see, the thing with cars that people absolutely love is that they never want it to change. But while change is inevitable because manufacturers need to meet with emission norms and fuel efficiency requirements, and also to make their cars more accessible to amateur drivers as well. Well, one such victim is BMW, and the car in question is the absolutely revered M3. Now, M3 enthusiasts will naturally make the comparisons to the first generation E30 M3 all the way to the E92, which many regard is the best M3 ever built. Well, for better or worse, if BMW absolutely had to change the M3, the 2014 M3 Sedan and the M4 Coupe is quite close to what we would actually want it to be.